Hi everyone, today we are going to be doing portrait overlay. So we're going to be working with a layer mask and a clipping mask today, as well as practicing some things you already know how to do. So I have already opened up 2 images into Photoshop, so that is the first thing that you're going to want to do. And these images are JPEGs, so they won't automatically open into Photoshop. You either need to download them and drag them to the PS on your dock, or you can always go File, Open, and then select them after you have downloaded them. So I'm going to fit to screen, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use a selection tool of our choice to select this woman. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use this is the quick selection tool, so we get some practice with that. So I'm going to select the quick selection tool, and then in my options bar I'm going to make sure that I'm on the second button in that is pressed down, which is the plus, so that will add to the selection. And then I'm going to increase the size of my quick selection tool. It's on 30 right now. And then the quick selection tool selects basically by kind of painting like a paintbrush. So I'm going to click and drag my mouse to select. Okay, I got most of, let me just add on that little bit of hair. Now, if there's any area that you're gonna clean up, which I'm gonna get in this area a little bit and clean it up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the size of my brush smaller, and I'm gonna hold down Option to change it to a minus. And as you can toggle back and forth from plus to minus, you can do it up here in the options bar, or you can use your Option key on your keyboard on the Mac, and on the PC it's Alt to toggle back and forth. And you'll see, I'll make it bigger so you can see it, inside the circle it changes from plus to a minus when you are using the Option key. One other spot, I'm just going to make sure I've got these eyelashes the best that I can. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come down to the bottom of the layer panel. Just going to make this smaller so you can see it. And we're going to select the layer mask button. So it's the one that's the rectangle with the circle inside of it. Looks like Japan's flag. So you're going to click that, and that will add a layer mask. And what you're going to see is the checkerboard. The checkerboard indicates transparency, meaning that there's nothing there. Okay, the next step that we're going to do is we are going to go and get our second image. In this case, for our demo project, we're going to use this image of New York City. There's a couple different ways you can do this. I'll demo 2 ways, and then you can choose whichever way you prefer. So we're going to bring this image on top of the woman. So the first way I'm going to do it is I'm going to select all. Shortcut for select all is Command A, and then I'm going to copy, edit, copy. Shortcut for copy is Command C. I'm going to switch to the woman, and I'm going to paste, edit, paste. Shortcut to paste is Command V as in Victor. Now at this point, so I've got my image covering, and I can change the size of it using Free Transform, which is Edit, Free Transform, or Command T is the shortcut. And then if I did want to shrink it down, which I do think I'm going to shrink it a little bit. Actually, I lied. I'm going to bring it back. So the idea here when you're doing this is that the 2 images would correlate to one another. So maybe it's a hobby or an interest or a goal of the person in the picture. We're going to go with the idea that she is from New York City, so we're using the image of New York. So what we're going to do now is we are going to do a clipping mask. I really love clipping masks. So what happens is the image on top will take the shape of the image underneath of it. You can do this with text, which we'll be doing later on this week. It's just super fun. So we're gonna do layer, create clipping mask, and it will suck to the edges. Now I did tell you I was going to show you a different way to bring in New York City, so let me do that now. Another easy way to bring in New York City and place it on top of the woman would be just simply to grab your move tool. Take your move tool, click on your mouse, and drag your mouse over to the top. Don't let go of the mouse button, and then you'd simply drop it on top. So there's just two different ways of getting that image into the image of the woman. So now I'm going to do the clipping mask again. So to show you again, in case you missed it, layer, create clipping mask. Okay, and now it takes on the shape of the woman's head. So the idea here is we want to see a little bit of the top image of New York, and we want to see a little bit of the woman's face. It's kind of like we have a double exposure happening. So I'm going to drop the opacity on this New York layer, this layer 1. And so you can kind of eyeball it and see what you think works best. I think I'm going to go with around 50% for my project, maybe a little higher, maybe 60. That's pretty good. So after you've done that, if you need to adjust the placement of the image, you can grab the move tool and move it around a little bit if you need to. So at this point, once we're finished and we're kind of solidified where we want to keep our New York image, we're going to merge these two layers together so that they can't move independently anymore. So what you're going to do that is you're going to hold down Command on your keyboard, and you're going to click so that on both layers, so both layers are selected and they are grayed out. And once you've done that, you can do the shortcut Command E to merge the layers together. Now you can see if I'm picking her up and moving her, all of both photos move together because they are joined together. Okay, so now we're going to work on our background. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer. So we can do it the shortcut next to the teeny tiny trash can in the layer panel, or layer, new layer. I'm just going to name it background, and I'm going to put it underneath layer 1, which is my portrait, and I'm going to do a gradient. So I'm going to actually sample a couple of colors that are in the photo for my gradient. So I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool. Well, actually, before I do that, I'm going to actually select my gradient down here. And then I'm going to do a linear gradient. So this is linear. I will tell you guys, this is always, I think it's a matching question right now on the Photoshop certification test, where you need to be able to know which ones from the pictures here, which gradient is which. So if you hover over it, this is linear, this is radial, this is angle, this is reflected, and this is the diamond. So the most common one that we use is the first one, the linear, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And then I'm going to double click right here, and this is going to pull up the gradient editor. Now, before we've went through and used this, we know that inside of all of these folders, there's different gradients to choose from. But today, I'm actually going to do a custom one. So I'm going to do a 2-color custom one. So I'm going to come down here, and we've got these little stops. I like to call them houses. I'm going to click inside my first house, which will bring up my color picker. And then I'm just going to bring it over the image. I'm actually going to sample a color from the Statue of Liberty, and I'm going to click OK. And you can see that that color is now right here. And now I'm going to sample one other color. So I'm going to come over to this little stop or this house and double click. And when I double click, it brings up my color picker. And then I'm going to sample with my eyedropper tool second color, which is this kind of mauve pink color. click OK. So now I have a custom made gradient that goes from this green to this mauve. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to verify I'm on my background layer, and I'm going to click and drag to place my gradient. I think that blends with the hair a little bit better. So once you have finished with your gradient, you're going to flatten the image. So we're going to do layer, flatten image, and then we're going to save it as a JPEG and submit it. So file, save as.